It's really great to be here and meet you all. My name's Shevaun Haviland. I run the British Chambers of Commerce, joined the organisation in May. Previous to here, I spent 5 years in government, but that was just a blip. Before that, 20 odd years in the private sector, so big business, ran my own business. And through that period of running my own business, I also got involved in supporting small social enterprises and really grew that passion of business as a force for good, which is actually why I took the government role. So the government role was big business and government for social policy change in the Cabinet Office. I joined 2 months before the EU referendum. Great time to join, they said. David Cameron's just been elected, 3 years of clear water. So 5 years, I had 3 prime ministers, 2 general elections, an EU referendum, an actual leaving of the EU, and a year of the global pandemic. So it wasn't exactly clear water, but it was interesting times. And so when this role came up at the British Chambers of Commerce, it felt like a really exciting opportunity. And it was May last year, so it's been nearly a year, and it has been a fantastic year. So, you probably know the Chambers well, but the Chamber network is the 53, we represent the 53 Chambers of the UK, covering every region and nation, and of course the 76 international chambers from around the world, which when I tell a lot of people about, they're quite surprised about. So it really is a unique organisation, and I think it's quite rare to be able to stand up and say that. So really delighted to be here today and hear mostly from you. So what does the BCC do? The BCC and the Chamber Network are obviously here to support companies, to build new relationships, to build new opportunities, and also give that practical guidance. What I've seen in my learning year is incredible local knowledge, deep roots in local areas, not just the members of the local chambers, but their engagement and closeness to the local authorities, to the LEPs, to everyone in that region. And that is truly unique as a business organisation. At a national level, we are like that collective voice into government, into the media, and with national partners to help build our collective brand. I really have seen that the Chamber brand is really well received by government. So I see the business secretary once a week, the chancellor once a month, and on an international level, having that incredible reach of chambers all over the world is so important for our members. One of the main things we use to do that sort of lobbying into government is our quarterly economic survey, and I know that a lot of you fill that in. It is an amazing piece of work. So it's been around since 1989. It's the UK's biggest private sector survey. It really actually is the voice of British business, used by the Chancellor, by the Governor of the Bank of England, and gives us that real bedrock of information to be able to go and talk to government about what we want to see. So please keep engaging on that. COVID was terrible time, but I think it really allowed the chambers and the network to be at its best, because it really was that conduit directly from business through to Westminster and back again. So, the policy wins that you all managed to get away around the extension of the furlough for the flexible furlough, for the extension of the grant funding to those who didn't get it the first time round, and the business rates relief, were really game-changing. So the stories and the case studies and your voice is absolutely what we use. It is gold dust for when I am talking to Kwasi or Rishi or whoever it is at that particular time. So please continue to talk to us about what you're seeing and needing. We are hearing stories from organisations who are saying, well, week before last, my annual bill was £104,000 energy bill. I've now had to sign a contract because they've taken me off the fixed contract onto a variable contract for £704,000 a year. I'm going to have to sign it, but I'm not going to be able to pay it. What shall I do? And these are the sort of conversations we're able to have with with government. So the spring statement was a real opportunity for the Chancellor to do something. We felt like he fell short on that, which we clearly said. I think the increase in employment allowance and the fuel duty cut was welcome, but it just wasn't enough in this just ongoing tsunami of costs that businesses were facing into. And you know, we welcomed obviously the cut in taxes on business investment that he's looking at going forward, and the things he's looking at in terms of reviewing apprenticeships and R&D tax credits. So we'll make sure we push on that. But actually, what we're saying is, Chancellor, we don't. Businesses don't want you to continue to prop them up, right? We know that you did some great things through COVID. Don't give up now, because actually these are not. We know you can't control global energy prices, but there are some things you can do, and you know that a lot of businesses, especially smaller businesses, buy energy like consumers do. So big businesses can cope with it through their balance sheet. Households have some protection. You know, small and medium-sized businesses are often lost in the middle. You really need to think about an SME energy price cap. So we will continue to push on that, because the point we keep making to him is we need to get back to growth, and that will bring you money back into the Exchequer, Chancellor. That's where we need to be, because while businesses are facing into those cost issues, they are not recruiting people and they are not investing. So that was a slightly less cheery. On a slightly cheerier note, what are we doing to help drive some of that economic growth? So 4 key pillars of activity. The first is trade. So trade is a real USP for the Chambers, what we're all about. We know that businesses who trade are more innovative, they are more sustainable, they pay better. And of course, Chancellor, export is what's going to bring money back into the Exchequer's coffers. And of course, the Chamber network is, you know, it has incredible capability in trade. I use this stat a lot. About 10% of UK businesses export. About 60% of Chamber members export. And that really surprises people. And that is because Chambers are brilliant at the advice they give on trade documentation, customs declarations, and of course 76 international markets to give you that partnership, that soft landing into those new markets. So that is something that we need to continue to do. We published our National Trade Manifesto earlier this year. That is both about making the case for trade, because it's taken a bit of battering over the last couple of years, but also outlining, you know, how the Chambers are delivering against that, and what we want to see in terms of policy changes. You probably saw in the papers again last week the new trade figures that showed UK goods exports have fallen 14% in the last 3 months, against a global average of an 8% increase in the same period. So, you know, we are trying to push hard on the changes to the EU trade agreement. There are still lots of fixes that need to be put in place, both around VAT, customs paperwork time, but on the flip side of that, it's about also looking at the new FTAs. We know they're not going to necessarily replace what we've lost with the EU, but how we can help our businesses make the most of those new FTAs. So that's trade. The second is skills. It's really interesting when we talk about business, because business, of course, is not one thing. It's very many sectors and many sizes. But actually, I feel like when we talk to our members about recruitment across the board, it's an issue. Everybody is not just having an issue with finding people, but then finding the right people. So we know that sort of through COVID and Brexit, we lost some of the workers who would have been here because of, through Brexit, but actually COVID has seen probably about 250,000 young people stay in education longer than they would, and about 300,000, according to the Bank of England, people at the other end of the workforce who have retired early or stepped down their working who would have been in the workforce. So that's a 500,000 hole at least right there. So what are we working on that? So we are working with SMEs to try and understand what skills they're looking for and how they help work out how they can fill it. where we can find digital skills training and bite-sized sort of training that fits business owners, and particularly how we can help organisations think about green skills and upskilling for green innovation. The local skills improvement plans, which you may have come across, that the Department for Education put out 8 pilots over the last 6 months, all of which were being run by chambers from around the country, which is excellent. They are finishing this week, and then the good thing is that those local skills improvement plans have been put in the levelling up agenda and will go into legislation, so they'll be rolled out across the country. So we hope that chambers will be running those across the country over the next year, which is exciting. But more importantly, it's about putting into the hands of business the question around what skills are needed, and then working with our skills providers to make sure those skills are being taught in the right places. Third area, of course, is climate. It's a huge issue and a huge question. So the question for us is, what can we do? Where can we make a difference in this area? I think there are 2 main parts of that. One is helping, so the government set targets for net zero, but clearly it's business who's going to deliver that. How can we help our members get on that road to net zero? We know that only 10% of them have measured their carbon footprint to date. Clearly there are lots of other pressing issues, and measuring your carbon footprint probably isn't high up the list. It's important but not urgent. And actually there's 2 other issues. One is, who do I have in my organisation who can even do that? Do I have the capability to do it? And actually, if I do measure my carbon footprint, the plan's going to tell me that I need to invest 50,000 in new lighting or heating systems. Well, I don't really have that money at the moment. So how can we work with government, but probably with bigger businesses who have SMEs in their supply chain, to help support our organisations to move along that journey? And then lastly, economic prosperity, which is really, back to levelling up agenda and really the core of what the chambers do. So how can we ensure that the UK has the best business environment to start a business and grow a business, and have the right things in place to generate, because as we say to Michael Gove, levelling up is what we already do. Local economic prosperity is what supports local communities and societies. So use this network, use the chamber network to make that happen. Government need to ease that cost of doing business, set out a long-term framework for coming out of the pandemic, and therefore help businesses boost productivity and growth. So, not a small agenda and a big year ahead, but very exciting. And I really think the Chamber Network is something that is a really impressive organisation, and we can really do this together, drive that sustainable business growth, because we all believe that strong and sustainable businesses lead to prosperous and positive communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.